Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Who Are You podcast. I'm your host, Connor Overbay. If this is your first time checking out the podcast, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're always happy to have a new listener, a new watcher, wherever you guys are finding our content. If you guys want to see more of our content, make sure you guys give us a follow on the social media. It's going to be at Who Are You Pod from everything from Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, all the normal spots. And then on YouTube. Thank you guys for checking out our YouTube videos. The community is growing. We're very thankful. Make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, comment. You guys know what to do nowadays. Helps us get seen by more people, and we greatly appreciate it. So it's gonna be Who Are You pod, and you guys will be able to find us on there. But today, sitting down with two very special ladies. Obviously, I'm sitting down with the wife.
Hello.
Having her back on.
Again.
Of course, she's become more of a permanent co-host of the show.
I'm a fixture now.
That's right. And today, I'm sitting down with Vanessa Scaduto.
Yes.
Yay, I got it.
How are you listeners? How's it going?
Going good. And to be honest, we've been sitting here having a conversation, talking a little bit before the show's been going on, and you've lived a interesting life from what I've heard.
Yeah, I'm definitely a talker. I'm sure there's more details we haven't even touched yet.
Oh, I'm sure. And you're a podcaster, a comedian, a mother. There's the list goes on. And you have a background, was it tech, what you were saying?
So I have a background in a lot of things. Well, I'm a tech writer, but I have a UX UI design. I was teaching that. Also have an electronic media degree. We were from communications at UNF, and I wrote for the paper. So I have a bunch of, that's before journalism died, before paper died. But yeah, so I've been, I guess I've been writing and expressing myself for a long time. I'm also a musician. I think we talked, my sister's also in a band, and my brother, he's an audio engineer by trade, but he has his own business out of Portland that, he distributes through North America for guitar and pedal parts.
That's badass.
So it's called Love My Switches is his company. So a lot of
Shout
people.
out.
Yeah, it was weird because a lot of people, my students, would be like, I know that company. And I was like, why do you follow? I love their story. They're a small family, small business. And I was like, yeah, that's my brother. So
that's badass.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
And before we get too deep into the conversation, where can people, follow you on social media or anything you want to promote here in the beginning?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Red Hair Anomaly. Red Hair Anomaly. I know I need to change this. This was my PSN and stuff, guys. I've kept it. But my link tree in my bio has everything too. Also, there's links to everything for my other Instagram stuff, for my mic, my other podcast, my podcast, Los Rotos podcast, and then Strange Darkness Radio as well.
Yeah, and I love sitting down with another podcaster. It's some of our favorite people that me and Shane get to sit down with because we get to nerd out a little bit.
Yes, definitely.
Because we all know the work it takes.
That's the thing. A lot of people think you just press a button and just do it. And I'm like, there's a little more preparation that goes into it,
Yes, definitely.
At least for me, when I first started doing podcasting, I was more of I didn't look up anything. And, to make it a little, I guess, a surprise in some way, shape,
organic in a way.
And a lot of our conversation is still organic. Sometimes I'll touch, I have a, list of questions sometimes if the conversation's slowing down or something, and I'll touch on that, and then that goes down a completely different avenue that you just never know that happened kind of thing.
Right, exactly.
And I really enjoy the podcasting game. I've met a lot of cool people through it. You were on one of my buddies, shout out Graybeard Podcast. Love the guys over there.
What's up, Graybeard?
Yeah.
And then obviously we have a connection through Marshall Malone as well. Shout out Marshall.
My producer, yes.
Yes. So how did you get started in the podcast game? What made you want to start your podcast?
Well, I mean, the thing is, Marshall and I, we've worked on and off together for years, and so I think I mentioned to him that I was looking into doing something, and he's like, "Oh, well, I've been wanting to do it," so I was like, "Why don't we just do it together?" And I had this idea about, just talking to the local comics, kind of also putting Jacksonville on the map for comedy, because our city is so big that I think, unfortunately, it affects our comedy in the sense that a lot of people don't want to have to, travel 45 minutes from Orange Park to the beaches, for another show or mic. So instead, I figured we can showcase them and let people know what's going on with them. Maybe they could start following some of these comics. And that's another thing too, is I heard a lot of people not realizing how much comedy is actually going on in the city and how many comics we have in the city. I think when I started writing the list of who to have on, and I was like, there's over 60 comics just in the city that I pull from, And then of course I have my other friends in Daytona, Orlando, South Florida. So It's just a little hard to ask them from South Florida to come up to Jacksonville for a couple hours and hang out with me and go home.
That got to be a couple days.
Yeah. And for free. We don't have a budget, guys.
That's the big part right there.
We don't have a budget. So, yeah. So, and I just also, because my background too from the news, like where I helped my internship at Channel 4 and stuff, I always enjoyed interviewing people. That was like actually the thing I like most, because I love asking questions. I love learning about people. I just find humans fascinating. And, and I don't know how much you've watched my podcast, but I have like spiritual beliefs and things like that. So I'm always interested in creatives, because they create, right? So I always think like, how does it work for them? Is there anything that they're doing or, they don't talk about to people, and especially comics talking about it, at least it will be humorous and engaging. So that's part of like why I wanted to do it.
I think that's beautiful. And that's really the same thing with me. I would say our podcast, story really started out from me coming home, and I would just sit there and death scroll on my phone for hours. And I was just like getting depressed, had issues with depression as I've gotten older, or like ever since I was a kid, really. And I got to the point where I was like, I want to do something where, it's either working with the community, get out in the community, meet people, do something. And we just kind of started. I remember I bought the 2 microphones that you guys are actually talking on are some of my first mics. And I got those, and we just sat down. I got this the road board here, and we just sat down and did one. I was like, babe, I got all the equipment. I'm like, let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's just try it out. Yeah.
And my big thing was I didn't want to invest a bunch of money into a bunch of equipment, because as I was telling you before we started the podcast, I have no background in this. Audio engineering, video editing, all that stuff. This is all stuff from many hours of YouTube and other podcasters and other people being nice enough to help me out, kind of thing. But the human interest is my thing, because you grew up differently than I did. She grew up differently than I did. And it's interesting to see how like people kind of made it to where they are today, because there's a lot of times where there was a big fork in the road that you didn't know if you were going to make it to where you are today.
Several.
Exactly. And I think that's the cool thing. And I feel like that's also another reason, like with the depression side of things, like I'm a fan of comedy. I've been a fan of comedy for years, through podcasting. The podcast and comedy kind of have a hand in hand thing, obviously, with the Rogans of the world, Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer, and all that stuff. But I was also a big fan of, do you know who Ryan Sickler is by chance?
Yes, I know Ryan.
I love Ryan Sickler.
Yeah, he has a unique laugh. Like he has this like
the funniest thing about him though is like everybody thought before he started doing video podcasts that he was black.
Really?
Yeah, because he has that country twang and that laugh. I don't know what it was. Like for me, when I first heard him, like I saw him, I was like, that is not what I thought he looked like.
Yeah, right.
He's a little short white dude with like white hair and everything. I'm like,
he's kind of I don't know, maybe because I've known him from the comedy world, so I knew what he looked like before. He did his, I think his it's called Honeydew, his podcast.
I like the Crab Feast that he did. That was his earliest podcast.
Oh, I don't think I know that one.
That's fine. This was with, what was this guy's name? He's still a comedian now. Give me one moment on the Googles here. But like I just love comedians, because when it comes to like dark humor, I find that kind of stuff hilarious. Like it could be pretty dark. I'm like, ooh, I'm like, that's pretty good. You know?
There's a couple of jokes that I've run by older veterans where they're like, you sure you want to do this? Well, because it's, it talks about, I'm trying to find the right word, because if this goes on YouTube, you can't say that word.
Very true.
Yeah, so don't worry.
Yeah. No, you're good.
I'm a professional here.
The censorship word.
Basically, if
God,
you do something to yourself that you can't come back from.
Unaliving.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
I was like, what is the word?
You're good. You're fine. I understand. Yeah.
But yeah, so like, it kind of talks about that, but it's like not the end of it. It's just saying like in that moment of whatever I was experiencing, it's not personal. I was talking about somebody else, but, there was humor in it. And I think maybe because they were shocked because it was like somebody personal to me. So they were shocked that I would talk about it and make you, but I mean, I think that's why it was funny, because even in this moment, basically it's about my vanity in that moment where I had to confront my vanity when, here's a life or death situation and my vanity is looking at me and it's like, what? And I, hadn't slept for 60 days. Anyways, it was funny because it was just like one of those things where I thought it was humorous, but not everybody might find it humorous.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You got to find. That's what kind of gets you through some of these things.
Yeah.
Finding the humor in things.
Oh yeah, now
And there's
you know,
different types of audiences.
Yes.
Like everyone has a different style.
for sure.
And that was Jay Larson was the podcast.
Jay Larson.
Jay Larson and
Okay,
him. They did the
okay.
crap pieces. This is really early podcasting, but no, it's just I like I said, like I'm a Tom Segura fan, and he's a dark
Yes.
comedian, and
Yeah.
you know, like he like pushes the envelope with that kind of stuff. But that's kind of the style I like compared
Yes.
to Bert Kreischer, where he's a little bit more like loud, and it's gotten to the point I still like
You
Bert
mean that
Kreischer.
he only talks about himself? All
Yeah,
the time?
well, the thing, unfortunately, that made me stop listening to Two Bears One Cave is his laugh. That's
Oh, really?
it's the screeching. He
Really?
he screeches
I mean,
in the
Ryan
microphone.
Sickler has a funny laugh
He
too,
does.
but I don't know. Something about his laugh makes me keep laughing.
It keeps me giggling, too.
because he has such an absurd laugh that it's just hilarious. But yeah, no, Bert is just he whines about things that I find irrelevant in his status.
Rich white man problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love that Tom just jokes around with people where he's like, "Oh, okay, like sorry you poors," you know,
Yeah.
like obviously he's making a joke,
Of
right?
course.
But like Bert is genuinely sometimes upset.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, how is Tom even friends with this guy?
It's one of those things. And I feel like obviously people put out a persona. And obviously I don't know if it's
I'm
not.
Sure
Yeah.
I'm sure Bert is a great guy personally. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, unfortunately, when you get that big, people start criticizing you
Yeah.
for even those little mundane things. But, you know, you do look at their privileges and go, is this something to complain about?
No, I thoroughly agree with you. But when you were getting into comedy, were you more into like were there female comics that kind of like made you feel like, oh, I can do this, or is it more like you just like comedy and you know I'm gonna go try this out?
Yeah, no, it was just I like comedy and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to try it out. I didn't even think about females
Mm-hmm.
or men. Like, I didn't think about it like that. I also wrote a lot of jokes for years before even doing stand up. And I had friends who would start doing stand up and I'd share the jokes and they're like, dude, when are you going to just get on a mic? And I was like, I don't know. I'm old. I'm abroad. You know, like all these things, all these things I put on myself. Nobody put that on me. Right. And it's not to say that society doesn't at times, but, you know, I'm creating my own victimhood by saying I can't do this. So once I removed, and even recently too, like in the last few years, I think I removed certain boundaries. Like you don't realize you're working on that till you get to a point, I guess, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what it was. It was just this turnaround. Like, why am I putting these parameters on myself when nobody's actually told me that directly? I mean, people act a certain type of way, but you know, nobody's like said to me, and it doesn't even matter. Who are they?
Yeah.
You know, like why am I allowing this to happen? So yeah, and it's funny once you remove those things, you do better. You just really do. You just go out there and you know give everybody the middle finger and like tell them to suck the dick you don't have and like walk out and just everybody's like what? But that was hilarious.
Yeah.
What
So
is that?
did you just search for open mic nights then, or like?
Yeah, I was a nerd though, so like I was going to open mics without even going to perform. Okay, I'm the asshole in the audience, the you know the member that the comics eventually go, why don't you just do it? You're here every night with us. You're our only audience member. And that's kind of how I made friends with the Jacksonville comics because I started coming out, and then I was coming by myself. I'd go to house parties. They would. That was the day when Worst Coast Comedy with Brian Ziola, he would basically have house parties for comedy at his house. So we'd have like a little comedy club in the house. It was really cool, dude.
Yeah.
It was the good old days of comedy in Jacksonville. Yeah, so we would go do that, and yeah, it was a fun time.
Yeah.
It was a really fun time. It felt, and it was also just before like, you know, comedy took up again too. So we were enjoying this like fringe group thing. I can't explain it. It reminds me of like the Beatniks or something like, where it's like we had our own little thing, comedy scene.
Yeah.
I mean, but there's nothing wrong with that. It got you know, bigger after or during and after the pandemic or whatever. But it was just interesting to see this flourish of people running to comedy because they could only sit at their house and like watch stuff. And of course, if you want to be uplifted, you're going to want to laugh if you're stuck somewhere. So I get why people got into it. It was just shocking to me how many people start saying, I want to be a comic. And I'm like, what? It's like, dude, you didn't like my asshole joke the other day. What? Sorry. What?
I was just saying, I wonder how many of them are still doing that.
Oh, they're not many.
Yeah.
That's the one thing, you know, like I think I can crack jokes and stuff like that, but to be on stage and you know, like you give it off as you're just talking, right?
Right.
There's a lot more preparation. There's going to, as you said, the open mics. Those are your gyms, you know,
Yes.
to test out things and see what works. Maybe move this part of the joke here, maybe move this part here, or maybe this doesn't work with this joke, add it to another one kind of thing, and really be able to work out on that.
Yeah, or just scrap it all together.
That's always true.
There you go.
That's always true.
What is this
Sometimes
premise?
it just doesn't work.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. It's funny though, because people who started, I don't think they realize how, like, initially I think a lot of people come into it socially, like they think this is going to be a party and that we're all just derelicts out there just like doing the, you know, like people have an impression of what comics are. And I would say there's some obviously stereotypes, but Jacksonville is kind of unique in our comics. You know, a lot of them are more sober than you think, you know, and it's, you know, because that's what people think. We're just like out there, you know, just hitting up, you know, in the alley or something. When it's like, no, half of us want to go home and go to bed and wake up tomorrow without a hangover.
Well, you're not Andrew Dice Clay. Like, you're not out there, like, you know, doing the hard drugs before you get up there.
It's funny. Andrew didn't, though. I think it's a character he does.
Is that what it is?
He's a Jewish guy from New York. So he plays this Italian character.
Gotcha.
So, and that's me. Sorry, I'm from New York City, guys, just so you know. And
You're
my
good.
dad was obsessed with Andrew Dice Clay.
Was
so
he?
yeah, so I have and I've seen Andrew in live. I've watched him
That's
perform.
awesome.
I was one of the youngest people in the audience, but it was still he still did great. You know, he had a fake he doesn't smoke anymore, so he'll hold a fake cigarette and you know, things like that.
That's
so.
cool that he keeps the character going.
Yeah,
That's badass.
He never did it. Actually, he talks about the comics back in the day. At the Comedy Store and all the drugs they did. He hated it. Mm-hmm. So he was, because he played a character, but people thought he was legitimately that guy.
He got me. I was to be honest with you. I thought that was a thing. That's cool.
No, even now on his Instagram, when he does these videos and he's like, oh, you want a picture? He's like, you want a picture with me? Are you the guy? And they're like, what? And only some people get it. It's Dice. They're like, Dice, you know? And he's like, oh, you know who I am. Like that. It's just funny. He does all these, just funny bits that, you know.
That's a cool thing about New York, though. You could literally be walking down the street and you don't know who you bump into or who just happens to pass by. You're like,
oh, 100%.
you're like, wait a second. Who the hell was that? Yeah.
Some parts of Florida too, I think. You know, get more South Florida.
I have never.
Maybe Miramar, whatever. Yeah.
Not a day
the
in my,
rich areas.
Probably the most celebrity status person I've walked by in Jacksonville is an NFL player. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Not Jacksonville. More South Florida would be more.
But he's a big, like, when I'm telling you, like, a big name, like, he's probably on the Mount Rushmore for a lot of people when it comes to comedy.
Yeah.
And that's like I'm saying, like, to this day, I bet he could go out and sell a show and wouldn't even have an issue.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, it's funny, Kill Tony, like, you know, I have a love-hate for Kill Tony because it's given too many people ideas of going up, but then also too many people ideas of what comedy is, and in 1 minute doesn't showcase really your talent for comedy. Like, if you're smart, you'll do a good 1 minute up there so you can keep going or get on shows on Creek in the Cave. But, like, comedy is kind of tedious, and it's a gym, like, to keep going out there. And you're not going to always, you know, have a good set. And don't get me wrong, though. There's some, like, I have a couple friends that I think are, like, savants at comedy. Like, they're just naturally always funny. Mm-hmm. I've never even seen them open a notebook. Like, where I'm like, where's your jokes? Are you working on anything? No, I got them. Like, you know. And those are the guys that you probably will see go bigger because there's just, like, certain things about how they maneuver and how they view the world. It really is an observation skill as well. Comics have, you know, to import their message correctly and funny in the right way. Right. Anyway, Kill Tony. I don't know, dude. I have this whole love hate for that show. Like I used to love it, but then it's like so big now, but
it's an interesting concept, in my opinion.
Oh, it's a wonderful concept.
To give someone 1 minute to go up there, and if you're into, like, aspiring comic, you know, there's millions of watchers there.
Yeah.
Now, if you bomb, that's fucked. You know, that's a tough one.
I'm just saying, like,
go hard.
Yeah, I guess I'm just looking at the whole sense of comedy. Like, it's a great idea, like, to have people go up or whatever and do that 1 minute, and it's entertaining for sure. And of course, I know why. I call them normies. I know why normies watch it. I'm just saying, as a comedian, you go, oh man. You know, I hope they actually have a good 15 minutes. You're hoping, right? Because what is 1 minute?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I mean, you can have a 10-minute set and only have one good minute, and that's the only minute you'll post online. You know what I mean? Like, and I hear people now. I was told that people are putting laugh tracks in their clips online. And, yeah, it's wild.
That's
dude.
tough.
And I'm sure you looked at mine. I only have like 3 clips of me doing stand up, and it's from how many years ago? Because at the end of the day, like there are. We know that our stuff is stolen, believe it or not,
100%
by bigger writers for shows like SNL and things like that. So there's a reason why some of us don't put it out, unless it's going to be like, I think maybe I'll put that full set out like on my YouTube or something. But you know, unless it's like under my thing where I could be like, here's the thing. But yeah, sometimes you just don't do it. Like, I mean, Marshall's, he's had some issues with that where his skits have been taken.
He spoke about that on the podcast. He was talking to me about that.
And you can see him.
I forgot which one it was. Was he the one with was it vagina mints or something like that?
Yeah, he had that one, but it was also a disabled boxer.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, and they like made a whole like show out of it. Like it was weird. It was like a mini series or something.
Really?
Yeah.
I believe it. You know, especially in today's world with the internet, people are always scouring. Were you going to say something, dear? What's up?
No, I was.
Like scouring the internet for other ideas.
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, I didn't take it. I just saw it and it inspired me. And to go this avenue. And it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's just too many things that were like the same. Plus, I worked on that with him. Like I'm in the video. I'm
cool.
pushing the wheelchair and like the guy's running my foot over. It's like really, it's hilarious. And I had just moved back from California too. So I was like trying to start doing more of that kind of stuff. And I was glad to see Marshall is still doing all of it, you know, with his company Upside Down Creative Media and stuff. So it was really cool to see that he was still doing all that stuff. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. So it's one of those things, like even some of the mics that are run, like one guy, he's a nice guy, but you know, he has a Kick and he's live streaming it on Kick. I don't want my jokes on your live stream.
Because you're burning material basically.
Kind of, but who knows who's seeing it? I don't know. And also, no offense, but if you're monetized, where's my monetization?
Exactly.
Like you're using my talent to get monetized. Like, nah, like I need some dough from that.
Yeah, motherfucker, I want to get paid too.
I was like, like, even if it's a $10 though, something like, I don't know. It's nice, but it's like one of those things as comics you have to think like, and it all depends what you're trying to do with comedy, right? If you're just having fun and you don't plan on going anywhere outside the city with it, sure, why not?
Yeah,
who cares? But if you want to keep going further and doing stuff, yeah, you got to be kind of mindful. Obviously, if you do a bit on Kill Tony, you want that to go viral. That's fine. Take it. Whatever.
Yeah.
Because you want that access to what you have, like to all the doors to open.
Yeah, because you never know what clubs or other venues would want you, or even 100%. Another comedian wants you to open for them or something. Where all have you traveled to go do comedy? And do you have a favorite place that's like your spot other than Jacksonville, or is Jacksonville the spot? No,
you know, it's funny. I've done it in all over Florida pretty much. I haven't done it in South Florida, which I want to actually. I may go to Valon's Cafe tomorrow. My friend Alex Barbosa, who's also been on Kill Tony, you may have even seen her. She runs a mic, and tomorrow's her last day until they make the cafe into a comedy club.
Oh.
It went so well that now it's going to be a comedy club cafe.
That's badass. Hell yeah.
And that was with her help. And obviously the owners of Valon's was... very supportive. So I think it's really cool. So I'm going to try to see if I can make her last Friday one. Cause after that, it's going to be Friday showcases and the mic will be on Wednesdays.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so they're again, but that's in Melbourne. So that's like a 2.5 hour drive.
That is a good little drive.
Yeah.
That's in Melbourne?
Yeah, I think it's like on the border or something.
I haven't been to Melbourne in a long time.
Me either.
Last time I went there, I was like, wow, this is small. I was like walking around, like, this is interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I love going to Daytona, though, to do comedy. But believe it or not, like, Georgia is really fun for comedy. Yeah. I mean, I did comedy in Austin. It's okay, but I thought the comics would be a higher level of comedy, but
that's real.
I think what happens is it's oversaturated now. Everybody thought it was like the Mecca, where it used to be like LA or New York, which still are their own Meccas, by the way. It's not like Austin took anything really from them. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you're an actually good comic, go to Austin. But if you're like mediocre, work out in your town, dude, before you go there, because like, yeah, I mean, you're just going to be lumped in with all the mediocre ones unless you're really good and can stand out. Like when I went, and also I was the only broad who signed up for some of these mics. So I'm standing, there's like 60 guys and there's one me. And one of the mics I went to, It was called The Tiniest Bar in Texas, which is in Austin, Texas. It's pretty cute because it's like in downtown Texas, and it looks like a trailer and surrounded by all these like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I was like, are we in Florida? What's happening now? And so they had an outdoor patio, but it was freezing. But they let the women sign up first because it is so saturated with men that the host was like, the women can sign up first. Doesn't mean it just means you can pick a spot or whatever on the list. But since I was the only woman, I was like, I'll pick number 6. I don't want to take, Yeah. Plus, I did bring people with me. So also that helps the audience, like the comics have some audience to get feedback from. Yeah. Because majority of them were comics. Yeah. So I was like, all right, I'll kind of make myself, I don't want my friends to suffer too long, but I will. Yeah. So, and then they stayed for my other 2 buddies who are from Florida who live there now. And they've both been featured on Kill Tony as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, and they're really good. So Kent Hunt and Dylan Jarborough. So you've probably seen, they've been on a few times. So
have they?
Yeah, so you may have seen them and never put 2 and 2 together.
Dylan, blonde hair?
Dylan Jarborough. It's shaved, but yeah, it's
okay, gotcha.
And he has a unique delivery. So I'm sure once you realize who it is, you'd be like, oh yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then Kent too. I watched him do his first set ever, and now he's doing so good. I'm so proud of him.
That's
all
awesome.
of them. So yeah, it's really cool.
And I've heard about like in New York's like a good spot for comedy because you could go to so many mics like throughout the city at night kind of thing.
I mean, the thing about New York, I think like too, that's another one. There's so many mics though. There is, but there's, to get into places like the Cellar or something, you have to get past. Like you're not allowed to just sign up. So if you go to New York, unless you know somebody, you're not going to probably get in those rooms. Like maybe the Stand, I think they do have something where you could like sign up. But you have to have like tapes and stuff. Like they're looking for a certain type, but they occasionally those rooms will have like maybe once a week, maybe an open mic of some sort.
Gotcha.
But you definitely have to sign up ahead. It's like Atlanta too. Atlanta, you have to sign up and then they give you a time. Like you don't even get to choose. They just go, this is the day and we'll give you the time and this is when you show up.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Like I think Laughing Skulls is like that. So yeah. So every venue is kind of different. You gotta do the research. That's another thing. I used to have friends who would be like, I want to like during this thing, I want to do comedy. I am so frustrated with that now because I'm like, do you? Because I can provide you with lists of rooms. You just need to show up. Yeah. But you can't keep asking me every day. Oh, it's tonight. No, you do the legwork.
Go look.
Like, what are we doing here? How do you think I figured it out? Yep. I didn't have anybody to ask. I knew none of the comics. So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm always helpful for people who come in new and take the first step. But when it's my friends, I'm just like, either you come or you don't, dude. Yeah. I'm tired of hearing it. Like, just stop making excuses. Now, newer people, you come up to me and ask me questions. Yes, I will help you. Yeah, but my friends kick rocks. No, I get it.
No, I understand that. And to switch over on this to like talk a little bit more of your backstory. Yeah. And you said you're your mom. Yes. And your daughter's a grown adult now.
Yeah, she's 22 years old.
So were you a younger mom?
Yes, I was 19. Okay. And I turned 20 days later. So we're almost like exactly 20 years apart from each other.
That's crazy.
Yeah. We're like 20 years and 20 days or something like that. And who's into numerology now?
Is she still in Jacksonville? Did she move up?
No, she won't. My daughter is a creature of habit. Unlike I'm a habit, but not like I can move and stuff. My daughter likes consistency. She loves Jacksonville. I mean, she was born on the west coast of Florida, and we lived in Miami for a period of time, very short, like maybe a year. So her whole life has been here, really.
She went to like high school and everything here?
High school, everything here, yeah.
Where'd she go to high school at?
She went to Frank H. Peterson.
Oh, yeah, okay.
She was an architectural science major or something like that. So basically, she just did vet tech stuff. She loved working with animals. And
that's fucking cool, though. That's freaking sick.
I don't think I could ever work as a vet. I love animals, but not when they're in pain.
There's the dark side to veterinary stuff, but there's also the bright side where you're bringing someone's animal home. Like, I'm always thankful whenever we take Copper to the vet and like, here's your baby back. Like,
right. Yeah. That's the thing. My daughter is very sensitive, but she loves animals, and that was tough for her when she first started to do the euthanasia stuff.
That's tough.
But
tough,
she also, I think it helped her though, in a way, like deal with that transitioning part of life that we all deal with.
Makes sense.
And she also understood that a lot of those animals were suffering, you know?
Exactly.
So this was the safest thing and the best thing for them. So I think it was kind of good for her because she would, I mean, she would cry when our goldfish passed and like we'd have,
Tough, yeah.
I had to do a whole funeral procession to the toilet bowl and like, you know, like we said a little prayer for them, you know, things like that. She would just boo-hoo. So, but she loves animals. Like, I have one cat, but we used to have 4. So,
Wow.
yeah, and she now has 4. She has 3 of the 4. I told you the other one passed, but now she has another one. So she has 4 again, a rabbit, and I don't know, like 3 fish tanks. Like,
wow.
I don't know how she does it, but she does it.
You want to tell her about
Wow.
our old animal? I'll just say.
I was going to say my sister, she has 2 cats herself. She has a boyfriend who has 2 cats.
Aw.
They just moved into it, like with each other. So they have the 4 cats, but she used to have a dog, like a fish tank. It was crazy.
Is she a Taurus? What is she?
She's September.
Oh, I don't know. I
don't
think that's a
know.
Virgo. Maybe
guys-
it's
you
a
guys-
Virgo.
Probably.
I like how y'all looked at me. I was like, I was like, I don't know.
No, I joke around because
I just know what I am.
yeah, I joke around because my daughter's a Taurus, and Taurus are known for being like grounded, I guess, individuals. They like earth or they like animals. I don't know how accurate all this stuff is. I do have
Right.
my own beliefs. I don't want to.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No. But I mean, I understand why people are like, "What is a pseudoscience?" You know, like what is? But some things seem to be accurate. So with her, I was like, I guess this Taurus thing is right because I swear she like knows how to whisper to animals. I don't know. It could be any animal. I'm good with kitties and dogs and like. I guess I am good with animals in general, but she kind of can sense what's wrong with them.
Interesting.
Which I'm always like,
It's a connection.
yeah, it's some weird thing like where she kind of sees when they're walking differently. And she wanted to be a veterinarian, but then she realized how much it would cost, how long the schooling was. And she watched her own vet, her boss deal with like lack of payments and things from people and this the stress. And she's like, I don't think I want to do it.
Just stay
Now,
there.
yeah, she's like, yeah, I don't want to. She works from home now, like, so she's kind of lucky. She gets
Wow.
to be with her cats all day.
That's pretty
That
solid.
is great.
It is.
We used to have a cool animal back in the day. Whenever I was 18, I moved out and everything. And for like years, I was telling my parents, I want to get this animal, and it was a pig. I wanted a mini pig, and we
They're
got
so
it.
cute.
We got one, and it was super cool. Her name was Lulu. If it was a boy, it was gonna be Baconator, but it was Lulu. She was super sweet. She would sit in our lap. She was litter box trained, funny enough, because we lived in an
They're
apartment.
smart. You can
Super smart. Like we would throw the ball, she'd bring it back to us. She would sit if we were about to feed her.
She'd turn around.
Super sweet. Super sweet. The only reason why we don't have her anymore is 18 years old. We had roommates, as I was telling you.
Yeah.
Me and the roommate decided to break the lease. We were just not getting along. I was just like, I'm done with this kind of thing. And we ended up having to give her away. So we gave her to like a no-kill farm kind of thing.
Yeah, so
she's,
she can live
she's
out her
chilling.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's big chilling kind of thing. And to be honest with you, like if we had a house right now in a backyard, 100%.
Right.
It just right now it just doesn't make sense. We're on a 3rd floor apartment. I can't imagine. Can you imagine the looks we would get walking our pig around the neighborhood? People probably want to come up and pet it.
That would be great, but
We used to walk through Petco, and the pig always, whenever you held it, it would always put its like snout in like your armpit and just
yeah.
nuzzle up. And people were like, "What kind of dog is that?" And then she,
they literally.
Because the hair's wiry. They're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
does it have mange? Why are you bringing it in
and
here?
then, and then
And
she
I
would
would put clothes on her too, so like the
Ugh.
sweaters and stuff.
that poor fucking pig. But she was
that sounds cute.
It was she was well
little
taken
babe.
care of.
Yes.
The only thing that threw me off, obviously growing up here in Jacksonville, don't see a lot of pigs.
Right.
And the first time I picked her up, that squeal threw me
yes.
for a loop. I was like, "Whoa!" I was like, "Holy shit, you're loud."
They're squeals. It's weird. I was thinking about this because my dad's actually, ironically, my dad sent me a video, I think, of baby warthogs, and they're like so cute. And they do that little, like this weird squeal thing. But I was like, man, that sounds like if you didn't know where it was coming from and you're in the forest, you'd be like, that sounds terrifying.
I'd be fucking
I'm
scared.
going the other way.
100%.
Yeah, I'm going the other way. My cat was like, what is that? Like, she heard it and was like, I don't want nothing to do with that.
It's like, get me away from it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so I was a young mom.
Were you a single mom?
I was a single mom, and I could tear the dad apart, but I won't.
I understand. I understand.
I mean, it's what it is, you know. I mean, he's around, you know. I was like, he's in the ether, you know. He's always in the ether,
but he's just in the background kind of thing.
Yeah, not active, you know, not a proactive dad at all. But that doesn't matter. My daughter's great, you know. And I, it's funny. I look back and I go, oh, I did that. Like I did that on my own, like. And she's a great human. I was like, you did good, dude. Oh, sorry.
Pat yourself on the back.
I was going to pat myself, but I pat the microphone.
Sorry, you're good.
But yeah, no. So, you know, it is what it is. Everybody has their own path, right? So, I don't know. I just worked a lot while my daughter was young. So, I didn't really do anything like I wanted to do as much as, because, you know, you kind of put some of your creative endeavors on the back burner. But I would say once the pandemic hit and all that, I just said, well, she's grown, she's graduating high school, this job I was in was killing me, literally. I had to, like, the stress of it. The doctors were like, you need to quit, because I lost like 20 pounds in a month.
Oh wow.
My liver enzymes were high, so they thought maybe I had cancer. Like, they didn't know what was happening, or they thought maybe you had the C word, the dreaded C word, and I was like, no, dude, I think I would have known if I'd gotten it. But at the time, nobody knew anything. So we didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Right? So everything turned out fine. They just realized it was stress. Like this.
Wow.
So I quit my job and started gaining weight back. I lost it all in my ass, guys. It was horrible. It was horrible. I lost all my mass, my muscle mass, and it was all in my ass, dude. That's the only reason why I even know my boyfriend at the time was like, babe, your pants are falling down and your butt's getting small. And I was like, I looked at it and I go, oh my God, it's like my shorts look like diapers. And I was like, yeah.
Gosh.
And listen, as a white Latina girl, okay, I was proud of that little butt, okay? So I was very sad for it to go.
I gotta
get it back.
I have this thing called long back disease. I just have my back just goes straight down. It's tough. It's tough. You know, people have given me shit for it for years. Like she laughs at me because I have to get. I wear a belt with everything because there's nothing to hold it up. It's
you got no shelf back
there.
there.
No, nothing. Like it's been that way.
Got a little.
Like I played sports for years. I played basketball. I played football.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like I was really into sports. I was an athletic guy, and I worked out constantly, and I could never do anything about it. I was just like, I guess this is just what it was. Like I played basketball for years, football not as long. Because like going into high school, I was like 240 pounds. I was 6'4", 240 pounds. I was a big ass dude.
That's a big guy.
Yeah. So like I did that, and then puberty hit like my sophomore year, like really hard, and I went from 240 to 170 in like a snap. It was the craziest thing. And now I just maintain around 200. But yeah, the ass thing is tough. It's tough, man. She makes jokes about it, you know, but she has enough for the both.
More squats.
You have enough for the both of us.
Oh my gosh.
But
I don't have that much.
But so. Obviously, you know, being a single mom, making it all through that, you know, that first like initial, obviously breaking up, going through all of that, I'm sure that was a scary moment, right? Of like trying to like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah, you know, but it was also like the end of the 90s. You know, my daughter was born in 2002. Literally 9/11 just happened.
That's true.
So I think people don't realize like you just kept going. Like you didn't really, there was bigger things to worry about, I guess. Also, inflation wasn't as bad, you know, I could support myself on a $10 hour job. Now, no way, you know, no way is that going to happen. But then, you know, it was a little less scary, you know, and I just knew immediately too, I needed to go. That's my thought. I needed to go to college, you know. I mean, obviously I know that's a lie now, but I didn't at the time. I thought I had to set an example for my daughter. And now I'm the one telling her, listen, don't go unless you know what you need.
Yeah.
I mean, I helped her pay, like she was just about to get her like AA. I think she has like 1 or 2 more classes, but she was going for like a business administration. And I knew, knowing her person, I was like, you don't understand what this is about, but I'm telling you right now.
You don't want it.
Yeah, I don't want it. So she was like a couple classes left from getting in. She's like, Mom, I don't want to do this. And I go, okay. Like, we're not going to spend more money on college credits on things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
So why not wait it out? And vocational schools are cool, whatever. She's still making more money now than some of her counterparts, her fellow students from high school, because she just started working sooner. And because also I pushed her to get better jobs and to also progress in the company she's in. Because, you know, I didn't have that. So if I can guide my daughter to not make the same mistakes I did, which, you know, held me back from getting more success sooner, financially or anything, then I'm going to help her. Like that's what I think a parent's supposed to do.
100%.
Especially to a child who's a great kid. Like I'm so lucky. Like I really am, guys. I don't even know. Like I give myself some of the credit, but really sometimes I just think like her soul is just a good, just a good person. She's just a good overall little human being. So I was
awesome.
lucky. Yeah. I actually like my kid.
That's good. That's good. And it's crazy to hear like the 2002 is in the 20s now. I'm 99, so I'm not that far behind her. Yeah. But it's crazy to think like time goes by so freaking quick now. Like I turned 26 in like 2 weeks, and I'm just like, damn, like time is going freaking by.
Yeah, I mean, I think too people forget that I'm 42 because I'm around younger people all the time, and I'm like, no, I'm no broad. Like I remember analog. You know what I mean? So. It's just funny though, because, you know, I was pregnant with my daughter when I watched the second tower go in, and I'm from New York City. I've been in those towers. You know, I remember as a little girl trying to go up the elevators all the way to top, and we'd press the down button so we would jump because the gravitational pull, we would kind of have that temporary. So, you know, it was kind of devastating. And I do feel like that was kind of like, you know how like some people now will say, oh, I remember the pandemic or this like period of time. So there's been these little markers in my life that have just kind of like, okay, well, here's another chapter and here's another chapter. So I just kept pushing through everything. That's all. I mean, what else are you supposed to do? I don't really know now.
As they say, the world moves on. You know, even if you're having some life thing, the world keeps going. You got to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's all you can do. And I don't know what people believe in, but I feel like what I believe in is like that's what we're supposed to do. Like we figure we're supposed to get through the mess. Like we're supposed to figure out that we have the answers inside of us. God, I keep hitting.
Yeah, you're
sorry.
Good.
But you know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Like for me, like I'm not personally religious, and if you are, or if other people
I'm
are,
not religious.
No, you're good. Like it doesn't bother me one bit with people, and like we've actually had conversations, like you know, going back and forth on like beliefs and stuff. But like me and her have a saying, because we've gone through times where like roommates just randomly moved out on us. You know, we lost jobs randomly and stuff, and like we always look at each other like we're gonna figure it out. Yeah. Just keep pushing.
Yeah.
Keep
and,
pushing.
you know, the universe, you know, like in the spiritual stuff that I do, we call it tower moments, you know, like, so it looks like it's like, oh my God, how am I going to come back from this? But really, the universe clears out the garbage. Even if it looks like it's going to be a bad thing, it's technically taking all the trash out, especially if you were asking for help. You may get it, but it may come at a price, you know, and it just may take a little bit to get to where you want. But then you realize, oh my God, if that hadn't have happened, I wouldn't be where I am now. And that's how I've always looked at my life is like, yeah, that was difficult, but if that hadn't happened, this wouldn't have happened. And if this wouldn't have happened, then that wouldn't have. So I just look at it like if we're just on a little snowball, I'll just push myself down the mountain and keep adding on so I can keep getting smarter with all these life lessons kind of thing, you know?
No, I definitely agree with you. And like for me, another thing I talk to her about frequently is like people kind of just pop into your life and you're like, they were there for like 5 minutes and like they made an effect on you. You're like, that was interesting. Like you were like kind of like you were meant to meet that person for some reason kind of thing. And it's weird because there's people I've had like really good conversations with one time. And I was like, that really made an impact on me. And then I may never see that person again, but I'll remember them. I'll still remember that conversation. I'm like, that was really impactful for some reason. I don't know why. Like, some people just touch me in a certain way, or like not touch me, but like touch me mentally.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but like you know, like they talked on something, and I was like, that changed my perspective. I'm like, oh. I'm like, okay. You know, it's I think people are meant to either be a chapter in your life, a season in your life, or a day in your life.
Exactly.
You know,
100%. And, you know, in my belief system, like I think the universe pushes those people to talk to you or have these random conversations that you don't know what's going to come out of it, but then you go, oh, or like you just meet somebody in a bar and they're like, and let's say you lost a job and you randomly, they're like, oh, really? I'm a recruiter. Here's my card. You know, you don't really know. And that's why I just go with the flow now. I just go, okay, I guess this is a tower moment. Universe, what's next? Yeah. I'm ready for it. I hope it's better than this last thing. So,
well, and that's the thing like I respect about her is like she's gone through so much in her life. She lost her dad when you were 4? 3. Like very tragic accident. Mom went through a bunch of things, and then like watching like her mom are two strongest women I've ever witnessed in my life, just making it through things, including her sister. And just like that perseverance. Like
Right.
that's my favorite thing about the human spirit, as we were talking about earlier, is just people want to keep moving forward. You know, they can get beaten down, keep getting thrown down, keep told they're not good enough, and they're like, no,
Right.
you know, just keep getting yourself off the ground.
Right.
And that's like my favorite thing of like talking to people, you know, like, you know, talking to you, obviously you've been through shit, you know, we've all been through it, and just we're still here to the day, and you know, we had to brush ourselves off a couple times, but we're here.
Yeah, it's funny too. I was talking to one of my comedy friends after my podcast, and I was just like, I go through stuff I just don't always share with people, you know. And I think people forget that because they're so used to social media, where they think everybody's sharing every little, you know, it's highly curated, you know, and that's why mine's not that well curated, because like it's just, you know, my comedy and stuff, because part of that isn't always my personal life. And I guess, again, my generation, I don't know if it's just also therapy. I don't need people. I was telling my buddy, I was like, yeah, I don't need people to validate my beliefs because I'm confident in my beliefs. But that doesn't also mean I just invalidate yours, because
Of course.
I will still always listen to you and validate what I'm hearing, but I may not agree. But,
100%, yeah.
But to each his own, you know, and I think that's where people should stand, and is in their confidence of what they believe to be true, but not also force it on other people.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the one thing I'm not cool with.
No, I'm the same way, and that's kind of why like me and religion are weird kind of thing.
100%.
But no, like people we've had on the podcast, they've said some wild shit, and I didn't agree with them, but I'm willing to hear them
I was
out.
like, what'd they say?
Oh, there's all kinds
Let's
of.
talk about it now.
Or there's people who hype themselves up, and then you look at them, and you're like, come on, man. Like I did my deep dive on you before, you know what I mean, kind of thing. It's like, come on.
I've run into those people. I still know some of those people. I kind of feel sad.
Yeah,
because their ego wants them to feel inflated when they're not, but they also don't want to do the work to be that person.
Yeah.
You know, that they claim they're.
Yeah, and like you brought up the highlight reel part. Like I don't post just happy stuff. You know what I mean? Like I've had people talk about, like we had a lady from the barbershop, a prestige barbershop. She talked to me about her son getting killed in front of him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or like me, I'm big on like mental health side of things. Yes. Like sponsor BetterHelp, shout out. Yeah. But like that's my thing, is like I talk about my mental health. I've talked about wanting to unalive myself. I've talked about what I went through as like growing up and stuff like that, because you know the generational thing is including men. Men are people. A lot of people think that, oh, we don't want to hear what a man has to say. You know, they're already mansplaining or doing all this stuff. I'm like, at least in my opinion, I feel like just like women, there is pressure put on a man, whether it's to be a provider, to be that strong rock that does not cry kind of thing, or any of that stuff. And I'm like, man, I cry. I have issues. There's down days. There's times where I am fucked up just like you are.
Right.
And I like putting that out there because it's me putting myself out there and being vulnerable. No, you know, some people think vulnerability is a weakness, and you know, if it's all you're doing, if you're being a victim, you know,
there's
like
always a balance, right?
Yeah.
There's always a balance. You mean you can't dwell on what's hurting you, but you also have to let it out.
Yeah.
Like you, if you let it out, you usually won't dwell. You know, if you have somebody who's truly listening to your pain or what's frustrating you, a good sounding board, you know. I mean, personally, I've been in therapy consistently for the last 6 years, but like for on and off for the last 20 something years, because I remember when I was in therapy while I was pregnant with my daughter, because I knew, based off of my past relationships, like with her father and stuff, I was like, I'm not wanting to repeat this to show as a guide to my daughter. And so what is it that's inside of me that's causing these patterns? Let's get down to it. And so for the last 20 something years, you know, I've been and consistently for the last 6 years straight, you know, just seeing somebody to make sure that I don't go back on, because really you're screwing yourself over. Yeah. You know, when you don't get out of these habits, or, you know, you want to play victim, or like everybody obviously is a victim at some point, but it's learning when those archetypes are appropriate, or when you're just putting on a hat just to put the hat on to get some kind of sympathy or whatever.
Like my biggest thing with working on myself is, one, to be a good partner to her, and also, you know, just talk things out. Like went through stuff with family members and stuff, but now we've gotten to the point where I'm very much about talking about it. That's how I get my like stuff off my chest. I talk about it. We talk through it. And, you know, me and my family didn't really agree growing up. That's why I moved out at 18 years old, had issues and all that kind of stuff. But now Shan's been there for many of these freaking conversations, but like we've had these deep conversations where I'm like, hey, you fucked me there. And to be honest with you, like I felt like some type of way about it.
Right.
And then we've had conversations like, you know, either you're right or, hey, you didn't see this behind the scenes on what we saw you were doing kind of thing. And like what we saw, what kind of place you were leading to. So I do think it's good. And I think it's good to get stuff out there and put it out there and be real with people. You don't have to wear everything on your sleeve all the time, but I like talking about stuff. That's just how I get it out. And me and her have that's the one thing, like, people ask, like, oh, what's the secret to a happy relationship? I'm like, just fucking talk, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're mad, tell them you're mad. Tell them why. Or, you know, even if it's a small thing, just talk it the
and
fuck
it does
out.
take work to get there.
Oh,
Like,
100.
obviously, like, I grew up and it was me, my mom, my sister, and we didn't really talk about our emotions with each other and everything. It was like my mom, she's being strong for us, raising 2 girls, you know, can't even imagine. But so it took time for me to learn to just open up, be honest.
It's a trust thing as well, which I understood. You know, some new guy coming into your life, and Shan's been fucked over by past relationships just like I have. And I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm not going to lie to you. You know what I mean? It's just easier to get this out. I don't want to go to bed mad. I don't want to do this shit where we don't talk for 4 days. Like, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
100%. I agree with you both. Like, communication is key. It is funny, though, because I do have a lot of male comedian friends, and they're more sensitive, I think, than people realize,
100%.
you know? But I'm a safe space for them pretty much. But they also know that I can, because I'm a comic, if they go off the rails with jokes, because they love to not stay serious too long. Like, they may tell me this is hurting me, and then they'll throw a joke in, and I have to bring them back to, because I've been in therapy so long, it's almost like I've become a therapist with them. I'm like, have you ever thought maybe you have an avoidant attachment style? Like, you know, like, they're like, what's that? I'm like, Google, bitch. Like, I was like, Google it. You have an avoidant. She has anxious attachment, whatever. You may have narcissistic traits, but that doesn't mean you're a narcissist. You know, it's like all these things. But it's like the more knowledge you have of these things, the less you beat yourself up, because and then also the more self-aware you are, you can prevent that behavior from repeating itself. You know, you can go, wait a second, I mean, I still have negative self-talk, right? Like
that's my main issue, is that.
Yeah, it's some internal thing of worthlessness or whatever that, you know, bug is in my brain that loves to root itself out somewhere. Sometimes I'm doing so good, and then my brain's like, you're a fucking idiot. What?
Yeah.
That's life. Just like, hey, here's a life check.
Right. And so these things, you know, come from our childhood, though. I moved out, by the way, when I was 16. So like, I understand that. Again, different though. In the 90s, we could live on a couch and survive.
Very true. Very true.
I was like getting paid $4.25 an hour for something. So, but it's so funny to think back to all those things. But yeah, so it's like, going back to male depression though. Yeah, I do think, yes, there are some men who mansplain or whatever, but if a man is coming to you to express his emotions, hear him out first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just hear this guy out. Because you're right. A lot of times too, I don't even think it's just their family. It's society sometimes is putting these ideas in men's head of the expectation of what they're supposed to be. And then of course there are men who are maybe more sensitive, and then they're called a pussy or they're made fun of, or they try to emasculate them. I do love the men who don't give a shit about any side, you know, who are just like, nope, I cry, I do this. Yeah. And there's going to be times I'm going to be a dickhead back to you too. So it's like, you know.
Oh, that's how it is with me. Like I had to learn, because I'm very straightforward with people. I've had to learn to soften. If I if the not say the first thing that comes to my mind, I'm like, stop. Like, Connor, like, before you say this, because I'm sure there's been times she's like, she's looked at me like, what'd you just say? Yeah. But I'm also just like a social butterfly. Like, me and her will go to like, there's like podcasting events and everything here in Jax, and like she'll see us talking here for a second, and I'm like, boom, I just start making my way around the room. But to go back to the negative self-talk, that's a real thing. Like, that's my biggest issue. I'm like, when someone says something mean, I can take people yelling at me. That is what the fuck it is. I'm like, you're not going to say anything that I haven't said to myself in the mirror already. Right. But just like having to get yourself, it's a cycle. You know, you have to like snap. You're like, wait a second. Like, why are you doing this to yourself? And I think that's probably why I'm a little bit more of like a busybody. I'm always doing something, you know, whether it's podcasting, work. Before you got here, I was listening to the podcast with you and Graybeard doing dishes. I'm like, I just stay busy because I feel like if I don't, that's when I start talking to myself. I'm like, stop. And I'm like, I don't like a lot of downtime personally.
I feel you on that. but I know that is something definitely. So like, do you meditate or anything?
No, I wouldn't say I meditate, but Shannon knows, like, I'll sit there and I'll be thinking. I'm a very deep thinker. Like, I internalize a lot of things. A lot of times at the end of the day, she probably doesn't even notice this, but I think about what I did today. And like, I try to like make lists for myself, like what you're happy with. Like what today is something that you feel like you did good today.
So gratitude.
Yeah, gratitude, and know that like my thing is like I don't feel like I'm ever doing enough. And then I have to sit down like, dude, you just worked like 9 hours today. I'm like, you've like, you know, you were in people's attics all day doing shit and you were talking to people. Or like I sat down and did a podcast today after work and all that kind of stuff. It's like, you're doing enough, man. Calm down.
You are. I would suggest you meditate though.
Yeah.
Only because I say this as somebody who has the same thing. I also have ADHD. So like, sometimes I have like 3 electronic devices going and I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like you are really trying to get your brain all combined. So like but the meditation has worked for me because it helps me stay present. So like I'm able to catch those thoughts before I allow them to continue to spiral into something really dark. So like the moment I hear it, I go, wait a second, why are you talking to yourself like this? And I go, no, you're not. You're this, this, and this. And then I go, and then I change. I literally tell myself, I'm not going to allow myself to tell myself these lies. You know, they're just lies. And it completely changes the whole vibe again. Then I go back to being okay. But it's so weird how it can just creep up on you, especially like usually happens in like social events where I'm projecting this not a real thought that this person's having about me. You know, I'm like, they probably hate me. I'm so annoying. I'm loud. I was like, why did I make that joke? They probably don't get what I was saying. And now I'm a goddamn weirdo. And like, you know, it's like all these thoughts happen all the time where I'm like, I should just talk to only comics. These people that like, I was like, maybe I am autistic, you know?
Oh, 100% same. I probably have a touch.
I was like, I'm just high functioning. Like, I was like, it's just that I don't use it as a crutch because I didn't grow up in that generation. You know, it's like, because that's all comics love to talk about their autism. I'm like, yeah, we're all autistic. Okay, let's move on. Like,
we all have a touch in some way.
Yeah, we're all touched.
It just depends on what part of the spectrum.
Yeah, what kind of touching? Yeah.
No,
I'm kidding.
No, but I love it. I love this. But like I said, like it's been awesome sitting down with you today, and like I said, it's awesome meeting you. You know,
yeah,
I've
you
been aware of you for a little while. And do you have any final questions for her, Shannon?
Well, I just know we have to have you back on because there's so much.
There is a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe we can have Marshall on together.
Of course.
Because I did want to mention like the studio and everything.
Of course, go right ahead.
So if you guys love watching our podcast, you can watch it live stream at Upside Down Creative Media on YouTube. You can also follow Upside Down Creative Media on Instagram. You can follow Los Rotos podcast also on Instagram, Strange Darkness Radio, which also they're coming out with a whole pod about me. They have to introduce me. So yeah, there's a little more background of my spiritual background on there.
I like it.
Yeah, it's a little more spooky and mystical stuff that I'm into. And then follow me on Red Hair Anomaly and come to a mic. So you said next week, right?
You'll be coming out on Monday. What is Monday? It's January 1st?
You mean February 1st?
Oh, Jesus Christ. February 1st, yes.
I think
Monday
it's actually
is the 3rd. Because today's the 30th.
Well, thank you, ladies. So February 3rd, it'll be coming.
We're tracking our periods, okay? That's why we know.
Yep.
Trust me, I track hers as well. But I do have one final question, and everything that she just put out there will be linked in the description, everything. So anything you guys click on that's under more information about her, make sure you guys go like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. I love when people from our podcast go and, check out everybody we have on here. Keep the community together, y'all. But my final question, anytime it's someone's first time on the podcast, I always ask them this at the end of the conversation, is do you feel successful? And if you do or do not, in what ways?
That's a heavy question, my guy.
That's why I ask it.
I would say the universe is telling me to say yes, but there is self-doubt. Like what is success? I guess it's a personal measurement, and that changes for me periodically. So like you, I set minor goals. It's also my ADHD. I've learned that's instead of taking methamphetamines, excuse me, I'm going to just try to teach my brain to do little things at once. So, but I guess overall I am successful. I'm a successful mother, successful friend. I'm a pretty good daughter too, even if my parents have other things to say. I have my own opinions, and so does my therapist. All right, so, but no, seriously, no, I guess I am. Overall, I am. I would say, yeah, I am successful in a lot of ways, but doesn't mean I'm not going to welcome more success.
Of course.
So. But, oh yeah, I did want to mention though, it's February 5th, by the way, is my open mic too at Kingmaker. That's why I was asking.
Hell yeah. If you make a post or anything, send it my way. I'll post it up on the story.
Cool,
I got you.
I appreciate that.
And of course. And like, that's why I asked that question at the end of the podcast. Everybody answers it differently. No one has said the same thing twice. And that's why, because everybody stops and like, wow, wait a second. I got to think about that for a second. Because some people it's monetarily, some people it's relationships, some people it's like their relationship with God, all that kind of stuff. Or if they have a big house, they drive a fancy car. Mm-hmm. That's why I like listening and hearing what everybody has to say, because it kind of shows what's really important to people at the end of a conversation.
Yeah, I feel like everybody's a little too hard on themselves about what success actually means. And if I was going to look at myself as a parent, like let's say I am God or whatever, the divine, whatever you want to call it, I think I would be a lot more graceful. Like I think of my daughter and I go, no, she's successful. Like she's only 22, but like as a 22-year-old, I think she's successful. She could. So anyway, yeah. So I think I am. Thank you for asking me that. Now you made me think about some stuff.
Good. I love it.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of course. And this isn't the only time. If you ever have anything coming up or you just want to come back and talk, I'm open door policy, always down.
Oh, definitely. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
No problem. So guys, like I said, make sure you go give her a follow on the social media. Make sure you guys go follow all the podcasts. Shout out to Marshall, by the way. Marshall, we're going to have you back on soon. It's been a little while, but I want to have you back on. But Upside Down Media, go give them a follow, all that good stuff. They're putting out great content. Marshall is a genius, with skits, everything he puts out. Y'all set, by the way. Shout out to y'all set. It's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful setup.
Marshall did put in a lot of work.
It looks good.
Did, yeah. He definitely did.
Well, next time you see him, let him know I commented. I thought that was beautiful. And it has the orange dinosaur. How could you not love the fucking Jacksonville orange dinosaur?
That was my whole thing where I was like, hey, I want this as our logo. And
you have to have it. You have to have it. So like I said, y'all, go give them a follow. Leave a comment, 5-star review on their podcast as well. Help us podcasters out. When you guys leave us a review, it helps us get seen by more people, and it makes me feel good, and I know people are listening. But before we get out of here today, make sure you guys give us a follow on the social media. It's going to be at WhoAreYouPod from everything from Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, all the normal spots. Make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. We're doing our video interviews obviously on there, but me and Shannon are talking about adding some other kind of cool content, maybe vlogs, maybe, blindfold, trying food, just a mix of stuff. It's going to be Who Are You podcast on there. And then my final thing is, if you guys feel like you'd be a good fit for the show, you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, an artist, musician, comedian, and you feel like you'd be a good fit for the show, shoot me a DM on any of the social media, or you can email me. It's going to be whoareyoupod@yahoo.com, and maybe we'll have you guys on a future episode. But thank you again so much for your time today. Always a good time with the wifey.
Always good to be here.
And we'll see you guys next week.